What's up, Rock Camp? Week 6. What? I can't believe it. So, this is our final Zoom. I'm super proud of you all and see how far you've come from the very beginning. And I'm excited that my vocal coach is this week's teacher. And I had hit a plateau as a singer and just felt like, oh, this is where I'm going to be. I'm stuck here forever. And literally, in like the first week's lesson, I broke through barriers. The next week's lesson broke through barriers. So, just honored to have you, Jen, and your expertise, and you're just a humble and amazing human being. So thank you so much. Let's make some noise for Jen Marco.
Yay! Making noise for the people that are on the call with us.
Yep. So Jen let's open it up to the students. Do you guys have a chance to watch the video, and do you have any questions or insight? Anything help you in particular? It always takes a minute. So I'll go first. I just started the solo cup thing, right? So one of our last lessons, we did the solo cup thing. And I didn't realize for how long I've been singing that I don't always open my mouth wide enough, right? And I never realized like that really just relaxing and letting my jaw drop and be open is like the coolest thing. And it makes hitting those notes a lot easier. And when you stress about singing, you like tighten up, you know? So that for me was a huge breakthrough. Has anyone else tried the solo cup theory? Or it's all right if you don't have one. I used it for the first time. I used, I think, a big plastic big gulp, and it was like, no, that's a little too big. Yeah, so Mars, that's a good start, you know. But yeah, if you get a chance, Jen, you want to explain why the solo or like a plastic cup's the best
It's
way to go?
plastic. This one's plastic.
Oh, it is. Okay, plastic glass.
So what I like about this is that it is flexible because it's disposable. So it's made out of a different type of plastic than what you'd have in your cup in your house that like you've washed and rewash every time. So because of that, when you put it around your mouth like this, you can actually drop your jaw and bend the cup so that you can actually like manipulate it a little bit. So it'll show you how you're opening your mouth or not. Like if you're kind of singing like this and kind of keeping your teeth clenched like that, by the time you get up to higher notes, they're going to start feeling really, really tight and your voice will get tired. So I found that by singing in this, if I practice in there, it gets my positioning of my jaw kind of in the right spot to be able to do the types of styles and genres that I do, which typically are pretty hefty. Like I'm not doing really like breathy vocals. I'm going for some big notes with the type of stuff that I record. So this has just been another really good way to be able to utilize that. The way I like to think about it too is like the cup kind of reminds me of like the positioning of the mouth. Like I want it to be this open in the back and like this open in the front. And it's hard to visualize that if I'm just like, oh, just imagine that you've got like this much distance, but in the back of your mouth, like that you open, you use two fingers to kind of put between your teeth, and then you try to open that much back there. For some reason, it doesn't totally translate. But if people use a cup, something clicks and they're like, oh, I'm getting the sound to come out now differently because they're getting their jaw to kind of hit the bottom. So it forces you to do something that you might not normally do positioning wise with your mouth and to open up more. And it's not just about opening for the sake of hitting notes. It's also opening for the sake of resonance. And there's a big difference between volume and resonance. Volume is just how loud something can get or how soft something can get. Resonance is the way that the sound hits the microphone and makes people want to pay attention to what you're saying.
Sweet. Can you talk a little bit about developing your own tone or like kind of trying to explore tone? Because I know that's something new.
Yeah. So tone quality, tone is really interesting because everybody that you like. So can I just ask a question of your students?
Yeah.
Like if I know, I don't know if you can each like unmute your mic for a second, but I would just like to know who some of your favorite artists are that you like to listen to or that you kind of like to emulate. Someone whose tone of voice that you listen to it and you're like, wow, I really like this. I love the sound. I love the way it makes me feel. Anybody want to share?
I feel like I'm in the same range as Paul Simon, and I grew up listening to Simon and Garfunkel and Paul
Awesome.
Simon, so I feel like that's sort of where I like to go with my voice. I don't know.
And his tone is the kind of thing vocally that like he's not doing like these huge big belty notes and stuff, is he? Just kind of chill. But yet he can sell out a whole big arena of people because there's something about that tone that's just like, yeah. I saw him in concert a couple years, like, trying to think of when it was probably like 5 years ago, and it was just him. But he also was backed up like sometimes with an orchestra, and the mixture of like his voice and the instruments was, oh gosh. I'm like, this guy is magic. He just got magic. So, okay, great answer. Anybody else want to share?
Cash, you want to go?
So for my voice, I'm kind of a mixture of Taylor Swift and Katy Perry. I'm just kind of in that range.
Awesome. And what do you like about their voices?
Well, it's not just like one range. They can go really high, they can go really low too, and that's kind of me. And yeah.
Nice. And like the bottom of the register doesn't like die, which is kind of cool. Like Taylor Swift has a new song out called Invisible String. And I was surprised how low she goes on the song. So if you like Taylor Swift, her newest stuff that she just released, she has this note that literally is like, tie you to me. And it goes all the way down to that A on the bottom. And I was like, wow, I didn't know she could go so low. And it was just cool. It's kind of fun to hear her doing something different. It still sounds like her, but because it's not as much in the pop vein as something like Shake It Off or those types of songs, it's cool to hear like how she's doing stuff with guitar and more folky instruments and less overall production, but more stripped down stuff. She had to find a way to make it work to her advantage while she couldn't have like the full band recording her stuff. You know, she's like, okay, gotta find a way to do this. Gonna make it happen. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I love
Moving on.
that adapting to it. Adapt, changing what you do and being like, well, here's what we're doing. And that's what you all are doing at Rock Camp is adapting, right? Playing with your COVID bubble or doing a duet or it's pretty rad. Hillary, did you have someone?
One of my favorite singers is definitely Brandy Carlisle. I just really love her voice and just how much power it has behind it.
She's got a really interesting tone too that you can like, and every person that has been mentioned thus far have immediately recognizable tones in their voices. So part of what I think can help to develop tone is listening, like the top 5 things that you listen to, your voice will usually kind of become a conglomerate of those things. So I'm noticing that everybody in the camp thus far mentioned a female artist except for Paul Simon. But Paul Simon's voice also has, it's singable in like a female range, which is interesting. Like we didn't have anyone mention something that was someone like the bass, as far as, someone like with a really deep voice. It's all kind of rangy and sing alongable. So I like to find stuff that I can sing along with too. Like if I had my ultimate vocal cord dream wish, it would be to be able to sing. They're called the Clark sisters, and they're like hardcore gospel, like from the South Baptist, just like riffing all over the place and stuff. And I love that, but my voice is not completely built that way just because it doesn't have as much elasticity. But I love the tone quality because it's just like so strong and powerful, and they just kind of unleash and open their mouths, and it's just like this, just this huge sound. But the top 5 people that you listen to, probably the most of, that's usually what your voice starts to sort of meld together into. So what I would encourage you to do is not to just listen to these people, but also go watch live performances of them, not videos, because videos, you can do a lot of editing as far as your lip syncing, basically. It's not like you're actually singing, but if you are doing concert videos or Jimmy Kimmel, like those late night shows, I think every one of those people has been on one of those types of shows. You can really see what they're doing with their mouth. And then you can experiment with that, kind of looking at like, oh, like Katy Perry, for example, uses more of her jaw when she sings. And somebody like Taylor Swift is kind of more up in like the hingy part of her voice. She's kind of in the more frontal part. Paul Simon sounds very much like he's just kind of speaking. Like there's not a lot of difference in the way he speaks and the way he sings. Like when he would talk in between stuff at the concerts, I'm like, oh, it just kind of sounds like a speaking voice. Brandy Carlisle, she's really interesting too, because she uses like different placements. Sometimes she's got more volume than other times. So she kind of is like gunning it sometimes. And then other times she kind of like backs off. Like she's very much of a storyteller with her songs, which I love. So if you go and actually watch their faces, look at like, what are they doing? Are they kind of hair with their face, or they've got a little bit more like lift in the cheekbones? Are they like, you know, if you like someone that's like a rocker, they do a lot of like, you know, kind of pinching in between the eyebrows and like squinting and stuff like that. Just kind of notice, because it changes the quality of the sound coming out with what you're doing facially, like with your bone structure.
So the whole time people,
I learned that by osmosis. Go ahead, Talia.
well, I was just gonna say, the whole time when people make fun of your funny faces on stage, it's because you're doing it for a reason, right? You're like, and if you do start to develop your voice more, like I'll try singing, like I'll try to sing a note, like note, and then I'll try to sing a note, or I'll try to sing a note. Like just try doing your things differently and see, you know, what, and look in the mirror. Jen also told me, use a mirror and look into a mirror, see what you're doing, and you'll realize like sometimes you're making it harder on yourself, right?
Ruth.
I wonder, Kashmira or Mars, do you have a section of your song that you want to try, and then see if Jen wants to, or not wants, but Jen, if you know, notice a tip or something to help them with it? Be brave. Kashmira, do you want to go first, since Mars always goes first?
Since I don't really have my guitar here, our first part is clapping, so stop sitting around doing nothing when you should be out doing something. Stop sitting around, stop sitting around.
Yeah,
nice. Good job.
Awesome. Can you do it one more time for me? I'm just like hearing it for the first time. I know Talia's probably been hearing it in process, but
I haven't. That's our first time, I think. So good job,
okay.
Karen. Yeah.
Okay. Stop sitting around doing nothing when you should be out doing something. Stop sitting around. Stop sitting around.
Okay, cool. So did it feel easier the second time than it did the first time?
Yeah, because I was a little nervous the first time.
Right? Yes. And so that is actually part of what I would use as a tip, is actually just to give yourself the chance to do something like a couple times in a row, 3-4 times in a row, because yeah, usually the first time there's some nerves. Usually the second time there's like a little bit of like your vocal cords are kind of like, okay, yeah, now we're not talking, we're singing. So we're doing something a little different. And then usually it starts to like gel the third time. Usually it's that whole 30 times the charm. Even when I record, a lot of times we do 3 takes of the vocal track, whatever it is. So I want you to do it one more time. Now you've got your bearings, because you're not nervous anymore, we hope. And this time when you're doing it too, oh, I just pulled my selfie stand really, really close to my face. That was awesome. Okay. So now that you've got your bearings a little bit, do it one more time. And this time, you try to use more of your breath and go like more from the diaphragm instead of like right here. Because if you do feel nervous, the more the breath support that you get underneath it, the less that it like makes your voice shake. Because it helps it to be like, we're confident, we got this.
Yeah. Okay.
Take a big breath first from down here, not from here, but from here.
Okay.
And then go.
Okay. Stop sitting around doing nothing when you should be out doing something. Stop sitting around. Stop sitting around.
Yeah. So did you guys hear how strong? Yeah. Especially when she did the second one, the sitting around, sitting up. So even that little muscle memory that kicks in from actually doing it, it's amazing what happens. Like the more you practice it. Now I get that if you're like trying to do practice at home And if you've got family members around and stuff, it can be like, oh man, I don't want to do this while they're in the room. I don't want to do this while they're in the car. Do you feel like that at all? No, you're good. That's awesome. I always waited till my parents were gone to practice, or till I knew that they were like the floor up and I was in the basement. I'm like, I need a little space. I don't want them to hear every single thing that I'm doing.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I don't like to practice or take lessons. I'm like, Milan, go upstairs. Like, you're not allowed to be outside the door. But, it's being vulnerable, trying new things. And right. So just like Jen said, each time you do it, Kashmira, that third time, woo, got me emotional. I was like, I'm going to get out of my chair. I don't want to sit around anymore. Like, that was great.
Yeah.
I believed it. Awesome.
And I could feel the difference too when you actually use your breath to support it. That changes everything, because then it's like grounded. Because if I'm trying to kind of get it right here, sitting up, it's like I can kind of hit the notes, but they're much more powerful if I'm using my diaphragm. And we're at such high elevation that we have to use our diaphragms. We can't get away with not using them.
Mars, do you want to try?
So I have to say, yesterday I was listening to your lesson at when I was on a dog walk at Liberty Park, and no one was around, or if they walked by, I stopped it and started it. So I was like practicing. And today again, I was practicing our verses on a dog walk at Liberty Park, like loud, just standing up. Right now I'm sitting down, so loud. So trying to practice like using from here to here. Right now my heart's kind of racing, so hopefully.
So just take a couple breaths then to just kind of get yourself grounded. Just like take it from as low down on your belly as you can, instead of from like here down, because when you take a breath going this way, it's like your cords are becoming unzipped rather than staying coordinated and like zipping up like that. Does that make sense?
So
okay,
my roommates are in the kitchen, so they're in my bed too, so okay.
Sweet.
All right, so this is our second verse. It's when facts are made of fiction, I've lost all ambition. I search for balance in my head. Why the fear? Why the dread? Wash away this darkness. Wash away this pain. Why are human rights insane? The people's voices scream in pain.
Woo! Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so it feels like the message of your song is something you're really passionate about and that you care a lot about. So what I would invite you to do is to kind of spit the consonants out. Just like really like emphasize them. It might feel in your head like you're overdoing it, but us as the listeners won't hear it like that. Like we'll get to really hear the message coming through. And especially with like anything that ends with like an N, like pain, really like dig into those words, because then it'll just drive the message home even more. So let's try it again and just give it lots of diction.
Okay, when facts are made of fiction, I've lost all ambition. I search for balance in my head. Why the fear? Why the dread? Wash away this darkness. Wash away this pain. Why are human rights insane? The people's voices scream in pain. Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you feel a difference when you did it like that?
It's a little hard to hang on the ends, but you mean like pain for me?
No, just giving it a strong ending, like pain. Like that you can actually. Yeah. so that we know that it's like pain instead of pay or
Pain.
paid.
Wait,
So
the
that we just,
voices screaming vain. I just got corrected.
oh, in vain. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we want to be, we kind of like put so much into the beginning of the phrases because we're like really going for it. And sometimes the ends of the phrases, we don't totally understand what the words are. Like, have you ever looked up somebody's words online? Like you're Googling it, you're like, what the heck are they saying? Because we can't understand it. So I could understand every word of that, which was awesome. Because if you're writing songs that are like about activism or that are, you know, driven by a cause more than something that's just like kind of a nice poppy song or something like that, then we really want to make sure that we can understand the message you're trying to get across. It's so important. And diction is something that over the last probably 5 years, I hear more and more people that don't use good diction. And since Paul Simon is your person that you're like, yeah, I dig Paul Simon. His addiction is impeccable. And think about the way that he does like, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. So think about that, rain and vain. Think about the way that he pronounces that word. And we know exactly what he's saying.
Okay.
So yeah,
And notice
but yeah.
how Jen is doing that breath, that because she talks about that in the video, and that's Jen. You want to talk about that a little bit because that made it really clear what you were saying.
Okay, so can you everybody put your hand on the base of your throat, like right there, and then just try saying, since you've all got your mute on your microphones, just try going, hey, and I want you to see if you can feel the muscle releasing. Just raise your hand if you can feel it. Good. Another one that you can try with it is like mum, and you just want to kind of let that little relaxation happen. And it's like a slight feeling that you'll feel in your throat. So raise your hand if you can feel it. Okay, good. So if you notice with just about any kind of commercial music, so we're going to say like rock, pop, jazz, even in country, this happens sometimes. R&B is definitely big with it, gospel, pretty much basically anything except classical or Broadway. You'll hear like this little, I call it the fall off. That's my technical term for it. So let's take like a Bruno Mars song, for example, just because he's kind of in a female range. He doesn't go, easy come, easy go. That's just how we live. Oh, he's like, easy come, easy go. And you kind of hear this little dropping off of the note. That's just how I live. Oh, take it all, but you never give. I don't know if you guys know that song or not. Hopefully you do. Talia knows it. But he's not just like flatlining the note. He actually kind of like releases coming out of it. And that makes it a lot easier for him to also get to the next notes that he's doing. Because if he was trying to go, gave you all that and you tossed it in the trash. If he was trying to go from a tight spot, gave you all I had. You can see the tension in my face. I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna make it. So it just raise your hand if it makes sense what I was just kind of trying to describe. Okay, good. So you can literally feel it by just trying it with different vowel consonant combinations, like gug. You can kind of feel that dropping happening. Bub, like B-U-B, bub. And then eventually, when you've kind of figured that out, then you can just do it with vowels. So you can do it with like A, I, and just kind of feeling it, letting go. And if you start to incorporate that into whatever you're singing, it makes it so much easier because then you can get from note to note really easily without a lot of strain and a lot of stress because we ain't got time for stress.
Nope. Hey, Mars, would you want to try a third time now that we talked about that? So putting that at the end of your pain or vein, just the end of your phrases. You got this. You got this.
Like a pause sort of breath. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of like a little breath out.
okay. Oh,
Don't forget to breathe yourself too. Don't
I'm
forget
playing
to take a break.
guitar, and there is a one more measure of chord after each one. So I'm just
Okay.
after each line, but I'll just kind of go into it in breath. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. When facts are made of fiction, I've lost all ambition. I search for balance in my head, while the fear, while the dread wash away this darkness, wash away this pain. Why are human rights insane? The people's voices scream in vain. Kinda.
That was the strongest one out of all of them. So yay. Did it feel like the higher notes felt easier to get to also?
Think so. I don't know. I was a little nervous, but how am I?
Good job.
I'm
Really
working on reaching that spot. I don't know, with the chords, trying to match the chords with my voice as well. So
I could understand every single word that you were saying though, which is fantastic.
thank you.
Yeah. And that one felt really convicted too, which was also like fun to hear. Like I love hearing that as you guys are going along, it gets more and more confident, like each time you do it.
Thank you.
That's the best. You're welcome. And you're asking some really good questions with the song too, which
It's important.
like I feel you on that.
Yeah, it's important information. And Mars,
Yes.
just remember that. Just remember you're delivering that message connected to that beautiful heart of yours, right? And that heart wants people to feel your message. And that third time made me want to cry. Like, not gonna lie, same with Cash's third time. I felt emotional. I was like, oh, look at this. So you're starting to get it. Thanks, Jen, so much for sharing those tips with us. And
Sure
does anyone have any other questions before we say bye for the evening? We sure? Oh, Milan just popped on. Any questions, Milan?
No, but I just came to say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Milan. Miss you.
Yeah. So I would just say too, like Jen taught us these different ways to sing. Just sing your song as much as you can, like on your dog walks every time, Mars. And then the day you go to record, you're probably going to want to play it at least 2 to 3, maybe even 4 times, because the first time you guys play it, you're probably going to have some mess ups or you're going to be nervous. The second time through will be easier. The third time might be the one, right? Might be the ticket. A lot of times when I go into the studio, I notice that it's usually my second to third take that are my favorite, because by the time I play it my fourth time, I'm lazy with it. I'm not giving it as much attention as I love. I definitely don't put as much into it. But yeah, just take care of yourselves. Keep singing. Keep dreaming. Hillary, did you have any questions? Amar?
Just had so last night, so when we're in here practicing, it's sort of like I'm like in front of we're kind of squished together, you know what I mean? I know, right? You like that? I feel like tonight I might stand further back so I'm not so close to him. I couldn't really hear myself on the PA last night when we were practicing, so I don't know, like, would you recommend, I mean, is it fine for us to be all hugged together, or would you recommend me standing back further? I don't know.
Whatever you need to do to be able to hear yourself so that you're also not like over singing. Because sometimes when we're trying to hear ourselves above a band, we're like, all right, I got to be louder because I got to be louder than them. Right. So are you guys all hooked into a PA together?
Just Jack and I, because we're both singing, and then we kind of have this like call and response part in our chorus that where they're just Jack and I are on vocals, but Shell's, anyway. I don't know. Are you gonna be on vocals too? A mic? Me? Yeah. No, I'm good. Yeah. Just Jack and I. So yeah.
Okay. So is there a way to maybe turn somebody's volume down a bit so that you can like really hear yourself better, and we just adjust the volume levels between whoever's going to be plugged in?
I think so. Yeah, I
And
mean,
also,
That's what I
where's your
would recommend
speaker?
too.
Where's your speaker, Mars? Like, because if you have two PA speakers, put one right at pointing at you. So
Yeah.
make sure it's pointing at you and that you can hear it. You know, I would
Okay.
say back up from the band too, because you are to the drums, the louder that it's going to be, and you can't hear yourself. So generally, if I can't hear myself, I make sure that my PA speaker is as close as it is, and that it's actually pointing at me. Right. So you might take it off the stand and put it on the ground, right in front of you,
okay.
and treat it like a monitor. But yeah,
What I
either
was
way.
going to say too is to possibly do something with a monitor type of a feel to it, but then also just see if you need to adjust your levels with volume overall. Like if somebody can, if as long as you guys can all hear yourselves, but if somebody's really like, I want to hear myself really, really loud, then it may be good to just see how you can adjust for everybody's sake, so that nobody's having to oversing too much.
Well, with us last night, like they could hear me really well. I couldn't hear myself at all. Like
Yeah.
barely.
So try a different position in the room, and definitely try pointing one speaker directly at you, because that's what it sounds like is happening.
It was right at me, but I still couldn't hear myself. So.
But if the drums are in between it and you, like if it's across the room from you, it's competing with the drum sound and the keyboard, everything. So get one of them literally as close to you as possible, because you're the lead singer. So you should definitely have a personal monitor,
Yep. I
Does
agree.
Jack or who's playing the drums?
Shell.
Oh, Shell. Do you have a microphone? Because that could be picking up the drums and making it loud too.
No, Jack has the microphone on the keys
Oh,
and
okay.
he's on the other side. So.
And the only thing that's plugged into the PA is vocals, and the speaker was literally like pointing right at my face, but they were also not singing very loud. They were just shy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, that's gonna change.
Busted.
Yeah.
Well,
and
in our band, we have one of our speakers close to the drummer, because I feel like as a drummer, like that's one of the hardest places to be, behind the drums. It's hard to hear anything. And Mars, you know that because you play drums in most of your rock camp bands. So have one close to the drummer so they can hear the cues from the band, and the other one needs to be close to the singer. And then everyone else in the band should be able to hear it. And if they can't, I would have them move a little bit. Like when I can't hear, I'm playing keyboard in my band. If I can't hear, I just move myself rather than moving all the speakers around. So prioritize Shell being able to hear and Mars, you being able to hear, and then everyone else should move to where they can hear.
Okay.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Thank you.
And sing like you sang for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Sing like you sang for us. You have a beautiful voice, Mars. You really do. It's unique. I could hear you developing in almost like this country sound, like an old school country. Like, get it,
Yeah,
do
Lucinda
you.
Williams. I hear some Lucinda Williams gravel in your voice. I like
one
it.
of my favorites too. Like in there, like like I know that Mick Jagger's the lead singer of the Stones, but Keith's also like one of my vocal favorites.
Yeah.
And this is where that difference also comes into play, of the difference between volume and resonance, with wanting to have resonance on the microphone, because resonance helps to carry the sound forward beyond just the mic, where like when there's just volume, it just kind of hits the mic and then slaps you back in the face. But if it's resonant, then it can actually like fill up the room, and then you should be able to hear yourself more. So the more that you do get that support from the diaphragm, the more that you've got all of this assisting the sound instead of just the throat, because just the throat on a mic, it will amplify the sound, but the throat and the diaphragm combined will really get the sound to like get in that microphone, and you should be able to hear yourself. So if you're ever feeling like, okay, I'm straining too much in my throat, go back to, where am I really getting this breath from? How am I creating this? Where's the foundation for it? If I'm feeling like it's just too quiet, then am I giving myself enough diaphragm underneath my breath?
Awesome. Those are amazing words to part with. Jen, thank you so much for teaching us and inspiring each of us to project our voices louder. And yeah, thanks so much. Everybody make some noise for Jen Marco.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, you guys. You're awesome.
I want to say one thing to Kashmira real quick, and that's I love your song, and it reminds me it's kind of a punk song, but there's a band called Fugazi, and there's a song called Waiting Room, and it's basically about not sitting and not doing anything, but like because so it's called The Waiting Room by the band Fugazi. That it's kind of punk, but I think you might like it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love the workshop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
y'all.
I mean,
you.
in the lesson.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Thank
All right.
you.